Hey everybody, Charles for HumbleMechanic.com. Today, I'm taking your questions on carbon buildup, cars locking themselves, buying a TDI, and more. This is episode 143 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. All right, to get a question on a show like this, email me, Charles at HumbleMechanic.com. Be sure to put question for Charles in the subject. Also be sure to ask your question right at the top. Then hit the enter button a couple of times and then give me all the information. If you write a whole entire book and bury the questions somewhere in there, I simply can't find it. That means I really can't put all the questions on shows. Also, if you do not see your question on a show like this, be sure to check out the Quick Answers playlist on YouTube because that has a ton more questions that I answer straight from my iPhone. No production, anything like that. Just record and upload. Before we get into the show, let's talk about the sponsor of the day, which is CRP Automotive. CRP deals in a ton of OE maintenance and repair parts, timing belt kits, suspension components, and even fluids. In fact, they make the factory DSG fluid for Volkswagen and Audi. So check them out at crpautomotive.com. And one more thing before we get into your questions. I just spent an entire week down in Atlanta at the pull-a-parts yard, pulling parts off cars, shooting a ton of videos, hanging out with my camera guy who just happened to be Eric, the car guy for last week. So if you guys follow me on all the social media channels that I mentioned at the end, you already knew that. But for those of you that don't, make sure you follow me on those channels because I do a lot more stuff, like really short form stuff there. And I just would hate for you guys to miss out. So now let's get into your questions. First one comes from Leo. I have a question relating to the Mark 6 TDIs and the scandal. Is there any news on the fix? I've been thinking about putting away my Golf R and investing in a TDI Golf wagon and just want to know what VW has planned for a fix. I'm hearing it's a new catalytic converter and I'm hoping it's not a tune that will reduce fuel economy. Fun question to talk about, Leo. So let me just say this as like, you know, the disclaimer that would run across the bottom of the screen. I have no inside knowledge of exactly what's going to happen. I've also heard a lot of rumors from many different sources, but I do not have any inside knowledge of exactly what these fixes are going to look like. We're basically dealing in 3 generations of TDIs, you know, the early, the CCTA, the Passat, the first one with AdBlue injection, and then the newest generation, the Gen 3 stuff. I guess 4 technically when you throw the Touareg in. So before we go any further, I do not have any exact information from Volkswagen about what's going to happen. Even this $5,000 thing that was all over the news, we've heard nothing. We don't know. That being said, let's talk about what maybe could happen, possibly, potentially, maybe. I've heard a lot of things. I've heard similar to what you had mentioned about a catalytic converter replacement. I've heard some of the newest gen stuff, the Gen 3 is going to be simply a tune. Who knows? I've heard the early gen stuff is going to be pretty easy to fix. I've heard from some people it will be software. I've heard from some people it will be a mild to moderate hardware upgrade. What that means is maybe a catalyst, you know, maybe a NOx cat, maybe an injector, maybe a urea injection system. I don't really know. And then the Passat generation, right, the 12 to 15 Passat are going to be the hardest ones to fix. Now, what does that mean by the hardest ones to fix? I don't know. You know, at any rate, no matter what we say right now, unless we do have this insider information from Volkswagen, we're merely guessing. You know, it's fun. It's a fun game to play, but we are merely guessing because we really don't know. Could it be that every single one of these diesels in the entire country get bought back? Sure, it's a possibility. Is that likely? No, that's not very likely. My guess is that every one of these repairs is probably going to come with some sort of software update. Again, I don't know for sure. That's just a guess. I have to be very careful with what I say. With that, I just don't know. And like I said, I would guess that. I would guess that a software update is going to come packaged with whatever this repair is for all generations. Does that mean we're going to see reduction in horsepower, reduction in fuel economy, change in drivability? Maybe. We might. We might see X% decrease in fuel economy. We might see an X% decrease in horsepower. I just really don't know. And none of us at the dealership level are going to know this until we start doing them, until we see, you know, the book this thick that is going to probably be the update or the recall or the campaign. And then we start doing them and we see, we put them on the road, we drive them we drive them post update and see what happens. we get feedback from our customers. Either, wow, this is great, I didn't notice any change, or I'm super mad because now I have like 25 less miles per gallon than before, just to use an extreme example. So as far as investing in a TDI, I don't know. I don't know that I would call it an investment. If you want a TDI, buy one. I think it's awesome. But I wouldn't really be thinking at this point that jumping on a batch of TDIs and holding them or owning them purely as an investment standpoint might be really the best choice. It may turn out that this is an incredibly good investment. I'm not there yet. I want to be. I want in on it too, right? I can see a world where people are buying up cars from customers that they want out of their car. They don't want it fixed. They don't want the fuel economy change. They get it changed and they hate it maybe. People buy them, delete all the emission stuff in states that they can do that, and then resell them as, modified or refixed. That's what we'll call it, refixed Volkswagen TDIs. So there's a lot out there. There's a lot of chatter out there. And at this point, it is simply all just speculation. So if you want one, buy one. Otherwise, hang tight. We're still just going to have to wait and see what happens. All right, next one comes from Alec. So here's an odd one, or maybe it's normal in the VW world. I have a 2010 TDI Jetta. The car's had quite a tough life. Not all of it was my fault. The question is it normal for a Mark V or any VW to randomly lock itself? I unlock the car to get in it in the morning, and sometimes it will unlock normally. Or I get in it, and it's a button mashing competition with it. The car will unlock itself for half a second, then automatically lock itself again. But all in all, know anything on the automatic locking system? Okay, Alec, this is a super common thing, especially on that generation. Really, door lock modules have been a concern on Volkswagens for a fairly long time. I remember replacing a ton of Mark IV, a ton of B5 latches, 6s, 5s, 7s, kind of all in the same boat. Probably what's happening is that your driver's door latch is going bad. It makes sense that the driver's one goes bad first because it's the one that gets used the most. I mean, you can drive your car for the whole life and never have another passenger in it, but you're still most likely going to get in and out of the driver's door. So we can do a couple of things. We can get VAGCOM, probably the best $350 you could ever spend on your car, or for your car, I should say, and look at the fault codes in the convenience module and see if it has like an implausible signal for the driver's door latch. Odds are, if it has that, you're probably going to find that it has multiple failing door latches, but that's the one we want to focus on because that's really the only one that'll relock the car. What's happening is when you open the door, it might not see the door open, even though it's unlocking. It's really kind of interesting to monitor these micro switches positions and see what it sees, see how long it sees it for. Sometimes it's fast enough that it doesn't even really pick it up on the scan tool, but my guess is that it's just not seeing the door open, even though it is unlocking it. So if the door unlocks, you open it, you get in and shut it, then it's going to freak out because it doesn't see that you open the door, which, again, really, really common. What you can also do to see if you have any other latches is lock the car, let it sit for a few minutes, and then don't unlock it. Just go around and pull the door handles and see if something isn't locked. That's another really good sign that you have a bad door latch. So not terribly uncommon. Again, I would venture to guess or even bet that you have a bad driver's door latch. Not a very hard repair, not a very cheap repair. I think the latch is like $200 or something like that, $180 from Volkswagen. You can get them from Shop DAP. They sell them too. Very easy DIY install. The only tricky part is the door handle, which I have a video coming out about that soon on how to get that out without messing it up. But pretty easy job, and I think that that's definitely the place that I would start, and it'll probably fix what's wrong. All right, next one comes from Mike. This is for his Mark V R32, talking about rear sway bars. I'm looking to slowly get into autocross. I've already upgraded tires and thought it would be the next logical step. Do you have any recommendations for brand or attachment style? I've noticed some using existing seatbelt mounting points and others require drilling. Great show. Nice to see someone break down complex issues for the average driver. So there is a plethora of solutions for your Mark V R32, Mike. I actually, you know what I want to do for this question is I want to put it out to you guys in the audience, you guys that are watching this now. What do you guys use for stabilizing or stiffening the rear of your Mark Vs, R32s or otherwise? Put a brand that you like, show your setup. If this is on Facebook, show your setup, put a picture of what you got. Unibrace makes some great stuff. I know most of the suspension companies make sway bars and things like that. You know, a lot of this stuff, especially if it doesn't require drilling, you really don't lose any, there's no risk, right? You put it on, if you hate it, take it off, sell it. If you put it on, love it, cool. Some are adjustable, some are not. Some will stiffen the top end, some will stiffen on the bottom end. So this is, to me, this for me, it would be really trial and error. I'd want to find someone with maybe a sway bar on the back and drive it, or an upper strut brace and drive it, or the one that you drill and drive it, and the one that uses mounting points, stock mounting points, and drive it, and see if I could really pick up what was different about each one. But Mike, I don't have a good answer for this question, so I'm going to shoot this to the audience again. You guys probably have a better answer for Mike's question than I do, so post it up, let's help him out and see if we can point him in the right direction. All right, got time for one more. This one comes from Dan. I did a carbon cleaning on my TSI engine, and after it threw a P2008 code for the intake runner. Is that normal because it was just removed, or is that an indication that the runner flap is busted? Thanks again, Dan. So having a fault for the intake runner purely because you did a carbon cleaning is not a normal thing. In fact, I don't know that I've ever seen that happen. My guess is that all that carbon that was in the intake runners, on the backs of the intake valves, is probably in the runners of the intake manifold too. You know, that stuff is all there, right? And it's going to collect on the runners as well. In fact, a lot of times that's the reason for the runner fault. That's why when we're at the dealership doing intake manifolds under this warranty extension at 80, 60, 70, 100,000 miles, we're doing carbon cleanings too, because it's all in there. It's all through the runners. Now, there's the possibility that you didn't plug it in, you bent the pin of the connector, you didn't put the vacuum line on, the manifold broke while you were taking it off. Those are all possibilities. And really, unless the wiring did get messed up or it was the vacuum line, the repair's replacing the manifold anyway. So it doesn't really matter whether you broke it or whether it was broken before or whether it's failed as a result of that carbon buildup. But my guess is that all those little runners, you know, all the pieces, all on the bushings where the pin goes through the intake manifold, it's all carboned up. It's probably not moving very smooth, and you're going to most likely need an intake manifold. Stinks that you just did the carbon cleaning and had the manifold off. You could have just replaced it then, but a lot of times that's how it goes. You know, if you DIY'd this carbon cleaning, then it's not a big deal. You really know how the manifold comes off, and it'll be super easy to replace this time instead of just taking it off and putting it back on. So you can use VACCOM if you have that. There's a measuring value block that escapes me off the top of my head to monitor the intake runner. I want to say it's like 106, but that's just a guess. You can head over to Ross-Tech and go to their Wookie page. It'll have that information on there. I just, off the top of my head, I don't remember. So you can do that. You can see if it's moving. You should get a percentage reading of basically from zero or idle RPM to 3,800 RPM. And then at that RPM is when it flips the manifold runner, and you'll see a percentage change there. So if you don't have VACCOM, man, odds are you probably got a bad intake manifold anyway. So it's a matter of whether do you want to diagnose it or whether you want to just put the part on. Either way, these manifolds fail enough. I wouldn't hate on it either way you go. But I would want to look at it because that's just going to help you understand the system a little bit more, and you'll learn a little bit more about your car instead of just jamming a new part on it. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, you know what to do. Hey, if you like the video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, probably somewhere else soon. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time. Drink of the day is coffee because it's early on Sunday, and it's way, way, way too early for a beer.